We're going to need some ketchup in St. Louis because the Cardinals were serving up 2-run taters all game against the Cubbies. This is MLB Game Night.
When that final out is made, you know it's time for a Locked On MLB Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. Prepare to experience game day reactions like never before. Only on Locked On MLB Game Night. Your team every day.
Yes, it is your team every day, and this is MLB Game Night. Every game, every night. Jon Frisch, one half of Locked On Angels. J.D. Hafron, host of Locked On Cardinals, and keeper of the ketchup. Well done, my friend. That was a great on-the-spot joke. Well done. Is that Kroger brand right there? Is that what you got?
That's what we got here. Although I'm running out because of all them taters that we saw earlier tonight.
Heck yeah. Hey, so coming up on today's show, we got the shaky Yankees and the Reds meet for their one and only series in Cincinnati. The Red Sox head to Anaheim, having won 7 of their last 10. And a lot of former Padres, who are now Nationals, head to San Diego to start up a 3-game set. Let's take it first to St. Louis, JD, because the Cubs and the Cardinals met for the very first time this year. It's late. It's June 23rd, 24th. What are we doing? How did this happen? So the Cubs, they're leading the National League Central coming into Monday with a record of 46-31. The Cardinals, they're in striking distance, my friend. They only sit 4.5 back of first place with a 42-36 record coming in to this beginning of the week. Could the Cardinals climb the standings against their heated rival? But before we get to JD and his catch-up, let's hear from Sam of Locked On Cubs, who's going to talk about this division matchup. Here we go.
Cubs get embarrassed for the second consecutive day. This time the win, not an excuse. I'm Sam Olber from the Locked On Cubs podcast, and the big story will be Ben Brown today. He was terrible. He allowed 4 2-run home runs, 8 earned runs, and probably what will be his last start as a Cub this season, or at least for a good long while. He'll probably be sent down to AAA. But I'm just as frustrated with the offense and their lack of ability to execute against left-handed starters, especially situationally. Ian Happ, 5th inning, bases loaded, 1 out, first pitch swinging on a pitch on the outer half. It was a strike, good pitch to hit. If you let it get deep and go the opposite way, but he rolled over, just saw it, hit it, no approach. And after that double play, it went south very, very quickly. The Cubs are, we talked about it for today's show, Cubs are facing adversity here. This is their first real adversity of the season. They're struggling. They're not playing well. They're not pitching well. They're not hitting well, especially situationally. Lucky the rest of this time in St. Louis, they get to face some righties. So hopefully the offense can get hot and get right, because the pitching right now has really come back down to earth quick.
Yeah, PCA was the only one who scored the 2 runs that the Cubs were able to get against your Cardinals, JD. Now, we love Sam around here, even you as a Cardinals fan. We love Sam, but how does it make you feel to hear him say the Cubs were embarrassed today? Tell me about it.
I mean, it makes me feel real, real good. I'm pretty darn happy about that, because this Cubs team is really good. You know, this is that they're not a joke. They're not a flash in the pan. The additions of Kyle Tucker and PCA emerging as the star that he's become, they've been incredible. Like that offense, like when I was going over all of their stats and get prepared for the series, I'm like, how do you get these guys out? This is insane. And yet they figured it out. Matthew Liberatore unlocked the code tonight, because he was excellent for the Cardinals. 7 innings, 2 runs, 6 hits, 5 Ks. I even made the joke that I was like, they need to go see what Andrew Abbott was doing against the Cubs, because he's pitched really well against them twice. Maybe they did that. I don't know. But Matthew Liberatore looked great. He had a little bump in the road of 3 of his last 4 outings were pretty tough, where the ERA was over 10, but had a nice bounce back performance against the White Sox. But again, no offense, but it's the White Sox. So They're not a high-powered offense. They're not the Cubs. That's right. For sure. And to see him come out and do what he did on the mound in what was like 103 degrees at Busch Stadium, it was awesome. But the big shocker was the power display by the Cardinals in this one, who hit 4 2-run home runs. Lars Nootbaar, Brendan Donovan, Alec Burleson, Nolan Gorman, they all had a plan. The only bat that had a home run that wasn't like a first or second pitch was the Nootbaar one, where Brown got behind 3-0 in the count and had to fight his way back, and then Newt hit a full count knuckle curve over right field wall. But then it was Donovan, second pitch. Alec Burleson and Gorman were on the first pitch. So that was their game plan going up against Brown, and it worked out. Last time the Cardinals hit 2-run home runs, 4 of them in one game. Yadier Molina, Tyler O'Neill, Lane Thomas. You've all heard of them. And then there's the immortal Rangel Ravello on September 10, 2020 against the Detroit Tigers. Only had 3 home runs in his career, John.
Dang.
And one of them was part of that 4 home run barrage against the Tigers. Everybody in St. Louis happy right now. Pretty darn pleased with what they saw at Busch Stadium. A lot of intensity, a lot of excitement. And it's kind of like how they did it against the Dodgers, where they were able to take 2 or 3 from them. It felt like that kind of energy there.
Yeah, it was great to see. I was watching the broadcast, and man, 3 of those 2-run home runs were with 2 outs as well.
Yeah.
You and I were texting back and forth.
Mhm.
2-run, 2-out taters. It's tater time, man. That was a lot of fun.
That's lemon juice in an open wound. You hate that when you're the opposition. You're like, oh my gosh, now with 2 outs.
Exactly. So yeah, big, huge win for the Cardinals, taking game 1 of this series against the Cubs in St. Louis. Let's take it over to the Braves and the Mets. A big old NL East matchup between these two teams. The Mets coming into Monday lost 8 of 9, and the Braves are kind of soaring right now, 7-3 over their last 10. They're trying to gain some ground there in the National League East. So prior to the game, the Mets sent down Luis Angel Acuna for a little roster shakeup. They also had Travis Jankowski, who signed a minor league deal with them. They called him up. Is that going to help against a Braves team who sent Spencer Schwellenbach to the mound? Well, let's check in with Jake of Locked On Braves to find out how this one went down.
It was a lot closer than it needed to be with the Atlanta Braves get a 3-2 win over the New York Mets. Jake Mastriani here from Locked On Braves. And Spencer Schwellenbach was fantastic in this game for the Atlanta Braves. The only blemish was a walk followed by a 2-run homer to Juan Soto that made it a 3-2 game late. But otherwise, he was fantastic once again for the Atlanta Braves. But the moment in this game came down to the 8th inning with runners on the corner, 2 outs. Dylan Lee comes into the game to face Juan Soto, works the count full, and throws the best slider that you have ever seen to get Juan Soto swinging for the big strikeout. What a great moment there for Dylan Lee, who was kind of taking over the closer role for the Atlanta Braves after Iglesias, who started the 8th inning here, gave up a couple of 2-out hits to Lindor and Nimmo, and then Dylan Lee had to come in and clean things up. What a big moment for him. What a big win for the Atlanta Braves. We'll talk more about this one over on the postcast.
Yeah, big, huge win there. Spencer Schwellenbach was fantastic on the mound in this one. It's funny, I have Schwellenbach on my fantasy team, and I almost took Ben Brown to give me a start today, but I thought better of it.
Dodged a bullet there, didn't you?
I thought way better of it. So let's take it over to Chris Schubert of the Locked On Mets postcast. He's got his thoughts on the struggling Mets team and what's been going wrong for them right now.
Mets bullpen pitched very well. Juan Soto hit a 2-run home run, yet it still wasn't enough for the New York Mets, who have now lost 9 of their last 10 games. It is just rough times for the New York Mets. When they get the pitching, they don't get the hitting. When they get the hitting, they don't get the pitching. And there are some nights where they don't get all of it. This is a very tough stretch for this baseball team, and one where you don't know how and when they're going to get out of it. They have a lineup that is inconsistent. They have a lineup that has some holes towards the bottom. They have a pitching staff that's dealing with injuries. These are things that we have said over and over and over again so far during the stretch, but nothing seems to change. You thought tonight might have been that night. The big home run from Soto. The crowd is into it at home against the division rival. If they came back to win that game, you felt like that was going to be the moment, even more so than the game that they won on Saturday. Unfortunately, it wasn't meant to be, as the rally came up short. It's back to the drawing board, and it's Frankie Montas to make his Mets debut to hopefully get them in the win column.
Yeah, they're going to need Montas to come through for them because they are down a ton of starters, ton of players. So, JD, the Mets hitters went 4 through 8 went a combined 0 for 18 with 5 strikeouts. That included Pete Alonso, but they're down Mark Vientos. They're down Jesse Winker. They sent down a struggling Francisco Alvarez. Obviously, Luis Angel Acuna was sent down. Chris mentioned when one thing goes right, another thing goes wrong. So, JD, in your opinion, what's the solution for the Mets here?
Just got to keep grinding. I know it's the most boring answer you've ever heard, but it's kind of the way that this sport works because
Baseball,
of the season
baby.
being as long as it is. I mean, the shakeups of rosters, it's coming because we're a little over a month away from the trade deadline. I don't suspect the Mets are going to sit on their hands and not do anything to improve their roster. So it's going to happen eventually. But you just gotta fight your way through these spots. I mean, it happens to every team at some point where they're gonna lose 6, 7 in a row or 8 of 10. It just happens. You just gotta mentally be able to stay focused and get through it, and just know that the grass will be greener on the other side, especially when you've got the talent that you have of the New York Mets in their clubhouse. Like Soto's getting hot. You just imagine that, Lindor is going to be right behind them. Alonso came out scorching this season. He finally cooled off, but he'll get it back. He always does. So just got to stay the course, man. I know it's boring, but that's what you got to do.
It feels like if you take your bumps and bruises now, you're set up for success later on and down the stretch, and that's when the Mets are going to want that success. Hey, Aaron Judge brings his Yankees to Cincinnati to face Elly De La Cruz and the Reds. We've got the reactions from the local experts of Locked On coming right up.
Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to make Rugiet Ready. Rugiet Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment. And what it's designed to do is amplify the arousal in the brain, and of course, boost the blood flow where it counts, right? Unlike the usual pills, they can take hours, which is a little awkward. Rugiet's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue, and it's going to kick in fast. On average, it only takes about 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. And if traditional options just haven't worked out for you, Rugiet might be the answer. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch, and you're going to love the fact that it's completely online. Rugiet connects you with a board-certified doctor, ships your treatment discreetly to your door. None of those awkward doctor visits to go to. Head to Rugiet.com/LockedOnMLB. Use the code LockedOnMLB to get 15% off today. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnMLB. And use the promo code LockedOnMLB for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rugiet website for full safety information.
Back here on a Locked On MLB game night, taking you all around the league, every game, every night. Let's take it to the Yankees meeting the Reds in Cincinnati. The Yankees, they didn't have themselves a great week last week. They were swept by the Red Sox over last weekend. They lost 3 of 4 to the Angels. They were able to take 2 of 3 from the Orioles over this past weekend to get right and maintain their lead in the AL East. They sit first place still, so no harm, no foul there. Meanwhile, the Reds, they lost 2 of 3 to your Cardinals over the weekend, JD.
They sure did.
They picked up a win behind a pretty good Andrew Abbott start, another strong start for him. Let's take it to Jeff Carr on what went down at Great American Ballpark as the Yankees meet the Reds.
Judge homered, and that was it. The Cincinnati Reds still beat the New York Yankees. What's up? This is Jeff Carr from the Locked On Reds podcast, and game 1 between the Reds and Yanks. Advantage, Elly with a 3-hit day, double shy of the cycle. Outplayed Aaron Judge, albeit Aaron Judge got a couple of meatballs. He probably should have had a second home run. Just happened to hit it to the deepest part of the ballpark, and TJ Friedl caught it. But that's all right, because it was a big day for this lineup after the first 3 innings, where it seemed as though the Reds lineup was going to try to get Alan Winans, Yankees starter, out of this game without throwing like 50 pitches. They turned it on and got the runs going. 6-1 win to start off this series big time, leading into the Chase Burns debut on Tuesday night. Nick Lodolo as well was really worried about him after he gave up that home run to Aaron Judge, but he buckled down in a big way and looked a lot better. Hopefully he can build on that moving forward. So much more to come from this game on the next Locked On Reds.
Is that Jeff's celebratory outfit? He looks fantastic.
He's on safari. I feel like he's out there with Crocodile Dundee.
If you're on the,
I don't know what he's all dressed up for. That certainly did not look like Cincinnati to me.
if you're on the audio side, you got to come over to the YouTube side and see Jeff's outfit there. Let's take it to Brian of Locked On Yankees. He's
Wait, real quick, did he copy
yeah.
off my hat from my video just the other day?
You must have. He saw you and
he
was
taking fashion
inspired.
tips from me? Uh-oh.
Let's take it to Brian of Locked On Yankees. He talks about those Yankees struggles to get things going offensively.
Not a great start for the Yankees in Cincinnati as they dropped game one of the series 6-1 to the Cincinnati Reds. I'm Brian McKeon from Locked On Yankees. And overall, this was a display of Elly De La Cruz and his talent, certainly at the plate and maybe his over-athleticism in the field. Yankees did not hit in this game. Runners in scoring position was a problem. Other than Aaron Judge's giant home run where it went a lot longer than they seemed to report that it went, the Yankees struggled with runners in scoring position, 0 for 11 throughout this entire game, didn't really hit well throughout the entire game, and that's the storyline. They didn't field, no one really fielded well. The effects of the heat were clear in Cincinnati. Yankees will have the pitching advantage in both games remaining in this series. They'll get Max Fried and they'll get Carlos Rodon in both of these games, but it's going to be important to get out of Cincinnati with a series win. You don't want to lose these kind of series. We'll discuss all of it on this week on Locked On Yankees.
Yeah, your guy Goldie got off to a hot start with the Yankees this season, JD, but it seems like he's kind of slowing down a little bit. You got some stats there?
Oh, yeah. Well, like you said, hot out of the gate. 349 in April, 315 in May, and you're loving it. If you're the Yankees, you're like, yes, finally. And they've been batting him lead off and stuff. They moved him around a couple times. But 0 for 5 on Monday and is batting 157 this month. And his overall average has now dropped 45 points since the beginning of June. So what do they always say? The June swoon of the Yankees? Goldie is right there, dab smack in the middle of it all, as one of those guys that just is not producing right now. And I saw what he was talking about with the Aaron Judge home run. They said 389, yet it went into the second deck at Great American Ballpark. So I know it's nicknamed Great American Small Park for a reason, but I say, 389 seems a little short for that particular dinger by Judge, but doesn't matter. Still one counts as one.
Yeah, we'll find out if StatCast updates that one a little bit later. They're prone to do that sometimes. Let's take it to the Diamondbacks meeting the White Sox in Chicago. The Diamondbacks are in the middle of a 9-game road trip, lost 2 of 3 to Toronto, but they just won 2 of 3 in Colorado. They get to take on the White Sox, who actually won 2 of 3 against the Blue Jays. We're going to take it over to Todd from Locked On White Sox. He's got a grim prognosis of Chicago's starter, Shane Smith. Let's hear from Todd right now.
White Sox rookie pitcher Shane Smith might be running out of gas, and it could cost him an all-star appearance. Hello, I'm Todd Welter, host of Locked On White Sox. Smith had his second consecutive poor outing as he only lasts just 2 innings, gives up 5 runs to the Arizona Diamondbacks, and he just doesn't look as sharp as he did in April and May. Not totally to be unexpected as he's reaching his career high in terms of innings. He only threw 93 1/3 innings in terms of a career high in the minor leagues, so he just might be running out of gas. But with Miguel Vargas raking at the plate, maybe he takes Smith's presumed spot on the AL roster. And I'll have more on tomorrow's episode of Locked On White Sox.
Yeah, bummer if you're a White Sox fan, because Shane Smith, he's put together some pretty good starts, but over his last 2 games, just not been fantastic. Meanwhile, the Snakes, they had Eduardo Rodriguez going for them. He was excellent. 6 innings pitched, 10 Ks. And then the Diamondbacks, the top of the order, just goes bananas in this one. Geraldo Perdomo, Ketel Marte, Pavin Smith. They go combined 7 for 14, 3 home runs, 6 runs scored, and 6 RBIs. Pavin Smith hit 2 of them, his 7th and 8th of the season. So you'd think everything is sunshine and rainbows for the Diamondbacks, but the injury bug struck, didn't it, JD?
Yeah, this one stings because I love watching Corbin Carroll play. Like, he's one of my favorite guys, like him and guys like, even he's a Cub, PCA, just these guys who aren't big dudes, but they just play a big game. Like, they can do everything. But bad news for Corbin Carroll owners in fantasy and in real life. The former Rookie of the Year and All-Star has been diagnosed with a fractured wrist. It's like a chip fracture that he's dealing with. So he's going on the IL. Hadn't played since June 15th. They were hoping that it was just a bruise or something. He was going to work his way through it. And it just did not respond the way they wanted it to. Got another couple looks at it and found the chip. So that's an issue. And then in this game alone, Eugenio Suarez, who leads all third basemen in home runs and RBIs, he's been a huge bat for them in their order. He leaves the game after getting hit by a pitch, right-hand contusion. And then their first baseman, Josh Naylor, also had to leave this game with right shoulder discomfort after an awkward swing in the second inning. Both are considered day-to-day, but the hits just keep on coming for the Diamondbacks, man. It has been a rough season for them injury-wise.
And those bats are so necessary to their lineup, too. So especially with the kind of season Corbin Carroll's having, man, that's just a huge bummer because, you know, he had a...
Both Corbin's gone now. Corbin Burns, Corbin Carroll,
That's
they're
right.
both gone.
There's a Corbin curse down there in Arizona. Let's take it to the Pirates. Meeting the Brewers in Milwaukee. Two more National League Central teams colliding on Monday night. Some standings implications because the Cards were one game behind the Brewers coming into Monday. So let's take it over to Gary of Locked On Pirates, who's
Go Gary.
having a little fun today and tells us why the young talent on the Pirates is starting to make some waves.
You know, baseball can be a pretty fun sport if you hit the baseball every once in a while. Pirates won this game 5-4 against the Brewers to take game one in the series in Milwaukee. Hi, this is Gary from Locked On Pirates. And, you know, all that missing offense that we've been waiting for all this time, all those failed number one picks, maybe we just kind of got a little bit ahead of ourselves because Paul Skeens came about so quickly. Nick Gonzalez was 5 for 5 tonight. Actually 6 for 6 if you want to date it back to his last game. He's really coming on. Hitting over 300, the OPS is climbing. Hit cleanup tonight, sure looked the part. Nick Gonzalez, number one pick. Failed number one pick according to many here in Pittsburgh. But maybe we're talking about a late bloomer. Maybe they got a few late bloomers in there. How about Braxton Ashcraft? Completely written off by everybody until this year. Starts this game off great. First couple innings. The Pirates have some young talent. It may not survive under Ben Cherington, but the next GM sure is going to be happy we have it. Let's talk about it a little bit more tomorrow morning on Locked On Pirates.
Yeah, you love it when you see some of these guys that you're excited about as a fan, like start to come around and make an impact. Now, with this 5-4 Pirates victory, JD, the Brewers and the Cardinals are both sitting at 43 and 36. And get this, they have the exact same run differential of plus 40. So you guys are really neck and neck together trying to battle it out right now for second place. But, you know, if you can keep beating up on those Cubs, you might be able to gain some ground in that National League Central. Hey, coming up, Cal Raleigh is having himself a season. We're talking Mariners and a whole lot more, and we'll get into all of that coming right up.
Ever check your bank account and just wonder, where did all my money go? Where is it? It's missing. Well, between dining out, online shopping, entertainment, going to ball games, doing fun stuff, it's easy to lose track of where all the funds go. And that's where Monarch Money comes in and helps you out. They'll be your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. And it's not just a budgeting app. Monarch Money is more than that. It's a complete financial command center. You're going to be able to track all your accounts, your investments, your spending. You do it all in one place. You don't have to juggle a bunch of different apps. It's all in one place, so you can stop just managing your money and start building wealth. And like I said, it's juggling all these multiple apps. You just stay with Monarch Money. You just use the one spot, just your go-to spot, Monarch Money, to check your finances, track your spending, plan your long-term goals. And if you're married or you share an account with somebody, it makes managing your money with that person, with your partner, whoever it may be, it just makes it even that much more smoother because you can track the shared and personal accounts. You can set goals together and you stay on the same page and you do it without the stress. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com. That'll give you 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year.
Hey, we're taking it to the Mariners meeting the Twins in Minnesota. Mariners coming off a series win in Chicago where Cal Raleigh and company, they were blasting baseballs all over Wrigley. And then the Twins, they're 6-14 in the month of June. They got swept in Milwaukee over the weekend. Pitching was the main issue for them. They gave up 35 runs in that series against the Brewers. And the math, JD, says that's not too good, especially when you got a hot offense like the Mariners versus the struggling pitching staff. You've got an equation for more hot offense. Let's take it over to Ty Dane Gonzalez of Locked On Mariners to talk about how this one went down in Minnesota for his Mariners.
Mariners bats stay hot on this road trip thanks in part to one Mr. Julio Rodriguez. This is Ty Dane Gonzalez, host of the Locked On Mariners podcast here. Really nice to talk about a big Julio game for the first time in a little while. Mariners thump the Twins tonight 11-2 after scoring 14 runs yesterday in Wrigley Field. Didn't matter that it wasn't anywhere near as hot or as windy in Minnesota tonight as it was over the course of this past weekend in Chicago. Mariners offense just kept it rolling. 4 home runs for them tonight, including one off the bat of Julio, who actually pulled the ball in the air tonight. That is a really nice sight to see. Smoked the ball off the facade of the second deck in left field. Also pulled the ball in the air once again for a 2-run double in the left center field gap later on in this game to play add-on. He collects 4 RBI in total in this game. Dominic Canzone gets on the board with another home run. Cal Raleigh hits his 32nd of the season because, of course, he did, right? And Luke Raley also gets on the board with his first home run since being activated off of the injured list. 3-run home run for him. He's actually been really good since being activated off of the injured list, so that's been a huge boost. The Mariners off to a 3-1 start on this road trip. Very, very, very important road trip. We'll see if they can keep it going. We'll talk to you before the game tomorrow on the Locked On Mariners podcast. See you then. Peace.
Yeah, great to see this offense keep rolling for the Mariners. As Ty mentioned, 4 home runs as a team. Cal Raleigh, his 32nd home run of the season. He's got 5 total home runs in 4 games. And in the month of June, he's hitting .316, 10 home runs, and 24 RBIs. Julio had a big night, as Ty mentioned. Brian Wu got the start here. He was solid.
That's
again.
not how you say it, John.
Oh, sorry, Brian. Woo!
There you go, my man.
Waking up the baby with that one, but it was worth it. The only blemish was back-to-back jacks by Trevor Larnach and Carlos Correa in the 6th. But he's gone 6 innings in all 15 of his starts this season, at least 6 innings. He's the only player to accomplish that. JD, Cal Raleigh has entered the AL MVP chatter. Do you think he has a case against somebody like Aaron Judge? What do you say?
I say yes. And the reason I say that is because not only is he clubbing all the home runs, which is great, but he's a friggin' catcher. He's got to sit behind home plate for 9 innings every night, too. He's not just lollygagging out in right field like Aaron Judge gets to. Just kind of stand out there, relax a little bit, talk to the bleacher creatures. No, Cal Raleigh is getting up and down, wearing out the knees, and he's doing it in the extreme heat that everybody's dealing with this summer. He's got to throw the ball back. Nobody ever talks about how a catcher's arm gets exhausted. You know, every time a pitcher throws a pitch in, you know who's got to throw it back? The catcher, 95% of the time. He's also doing the same motion. He's just not throwing it as hard, but he's still got to do it. But that's exhausting, and it's a reason why you don't see a lot of catchers put up huge offensive numbers, because the focus is what they're doing. They got to plan. They got to do the plans for all the other visiting players. They got to go through all that stuff. They got to know all the pitcher stuff that there's throwing to him on that day. Oh yeah. And then you got to go out and hit too. So I say absolutely yes, because that is a way more difficult job to do than what Aaron Judge has had to do. Granted, Aaron Judge does it at a level that nobody really has ever seen before, the way he can do it, but definitely in the conversation for all of that.
I think the tides have turned because Aaron Judge has just been struggling so much this month as part of that Yankee swoon. So, I think Raleigh is making a case for himself, as you mentioned, and it really depends on what are these baseball writers going to value at the end of the day when it comes to WAR and that sort of thing, because he should be getting. It
won't shock me if Judge would win it. Like if you stopped today and Judge won it, I wouldn't be upset about it, but Cal is got to be there. He's got to be neck and neck with him at this point.
Definitely. Hey, let me take you to Anaheim, where the Red Sox came to town, and the Angels, they dropped 2 or 3 over the weekend to the Astros. They won kind of a big blowout game, but then the 2 that they lost, very, very close. The Red Sox also dropped 2 or 3 against the Giants and their shiny new toy, Rafael Devers, who the Red Sox are very familiar with. Walker Buehler on the mound for Boston, Jack Ohanowitz on the mound for the Angels. Red Sox got out to a 3-0 lead in the top of the first Walker Buehler gave it right back with a 5-run bottom of the first. Zach Neto hit his 6th leadoff home run of the season. First pitch home run, took it over the wall. Then Walker Buehler lived up to his name and walked 4, and he hit 2. Trout walked.
Yeah.
Taylor Ward walked. Joe Adell singled. That scored Trout. Lamont Wade Jr. was hit by a pitch. Rengifo walked, and Ward scored. Christian Moore walked, and Adell scored. Then Neto was hit by a pitch, and Wade Jr. scored. So 5 total runs on just 2 hits. Now, this is a fun fact. The Angels had 8 of their first-round draft picks appear in tonight's game. The first time that's happened since the 1991 Brewers. Now, the Red Sox did tie it up with a Trevor Story home run, so it was 5-5 for a while. Alex Cora got himself tossed, but it was over some bad base running from his Red Sox. There was a play at second. He thought Rengifo was blocking the plate, but the Red Sox really ran themselves into those outs, and it was a really crazy double play situation. Angels end up with a 4-run 8th inning thanks to some late-night Lamont action. He gets a single, stole second, and took third on the throw. That was a bad throw from Connor Wong. Christian Moore battled to get a sacrifice fly to take the lead 6-5. The Angels ended up adding 3 more. Unfortunately, for Halo fans, Kenley Jansen left the 9th inning just 4 pitches in. The velo was down on his cutter. You could see that he was struggling and in some pain. You could see it in his shoulder and pec area, which sucks because he's been great this season, but also if the Angels were to trade him at the deadline, he would be a huge value to a contender, and the Angels could really get some good pieces back for him.
No more.
hopefully everything's okay there. Yeah. Now the Nationals headed to San Diego. They had an 11-game losing streak. They finally picked up a win versus the Rockies to end it. And then they took 1 out of 3 against the Dodgers over the weekend. This was fun because C.J. Abrams, Mackenzie Gore, James Wood, they go back to San Diego to face the team that drafted them in the Padres. And the Nats actually handled the Padres pretty well. It was games like this that make you wonder if the Padres regret that Soto trade, because it was a huge night for the young guys. Abrams, 3 for 5 with 3 runs scored. James Wood, 3 for 5 with 4 RBIs, a 3-run homer and 3 runs scored. And then Brady House, who was called up last week, went 2 for 5 with an RBI. Josh Bell had a huge night, 2 for 4 with 3 RBIs and a solo home run. The Padres did make it interesting in the 9th inning. They scored 3, but the Nationals held on to win it 10-6. Mackenzie Gore is going to get a start. I believe it's going to be Tuesday or Wednesday, but he is going to start against his former team in the Padres. But the Nationals take this one 10-6. Finally, JD, take it over to the Rangers meeting the Orioles in Baltimore.
Orioles, we know, got off to a bad start, but have been much better in June, 12-8, coming off a series loss in New York against the Yankees. Rangers just 10-9 this month after winning 2 of 3 in Pittsburgh over the weekend. And normally when you hear Rangers, Orioles, I think offense. I don't know if anybody else does. I think offense normally, but it was actually the Orioles starter, Trevor Rogers, who kind of stole the show here tonight. He came in to Baltimore at the trade deadline last year, if you remember, from the Miami Marlins. He ends up going a career-high 8 shutout innings, allows just 3 hits, walked none, struck out 4 to get his first win of the year, became the first O's pitcher to complete 8 innings in a regular season appearance since Kyle Bradish. Remember that guy? 23 against the Nationals when that happened.
I remember him? He was an Angels draft pick that we traded for Dylan Bundy, Barfin Bundy, man.
Well, listen to that mega deal. That was a blockbuster, right? 3 starts since coming off the IL for Rogers. 2 of them have been shutout performances, 6 1/3 against Boston. Then you get 8 against Texas. And former number 1 overall pick, Jackson Holliday, continued his breakout season, going 3 for 4. That included a 3-run home run, his 9th of the year. Drove in a career high, tying 4 RBIs as the O's shut out the Rangers by a score of 6-0.
All right, good stuff right there for the Orioles, who really need to get it together before that trade deadline. Hey, thanks for joining us for this episode of Locked On MLB Game Night. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. If you're here on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. You'll come back. Of course, we'll be in your audio feed as well. JD and I will be back at it tomorrow night, taking you all around the league, because this is MLB Game Night. Every game, every night. Break out that ketchup, my friend. I love it.